have so many choices. I'm so confused. What if I'm making the wrong decision? Sound familiar? Well, whether at work or in our personal lives, many people struggle with decision making, especially when so much is constantly changing around us. So how can you sharpen your decision making skills? Joining me live this morning from Las Vegas with help is Air Force veteran turned executive coach, Dr. Mike Smith. Dr. Smith, thank you for talking with us this morning. You were part of the Air Force Thunderbirds. Did your military experience actually help you become an executive coach?
Good morning, Daniel, and thank you for having me. Yes, it sure did. All the lessons I learned, during my time in the military and then a few years in corporate America just really kind of planted that seed where I saw the need for leadership development. So that's what got me started.
Your first tip here is apply probability to your decision making. Explain that.
So when we're talking about applying probability, one of the things that we don't want to do is dismiss all the events that could possibly happen, right? So probability, just kind of thinking through the decision we're getting ready to make and just being aware of the events and the things that could happen as a result of us making that decision. That way we're not blindsided or surprised when something pops up.
And then the next one is becoming aware of your biases. This is an important one.
Yes, very, very important. And this one takes a little bit more intent than the rest, simply because, our biases are those internal prejudices, either for or against something. And a lot of times they're in our subconscious, right? So they pop up sort of on autopilot. Like I remember growing up, my mom always used to say, now, Mike, eat your spinach. You're not getting up from this table until you're done, right? I think we can all relate to that. So nowadays, 40 years later, 45 years later, anytime I hear my wife say, hey, you want spinach for dinner? Immediately, right, that negative connotation pops into my mind without me even thinking. So that's a bias.
Next up here is limiting your choices. This is huge.
Right. Limiting choices is really important because if we leave too many options on the table, we can feel overwhelmed. And that feeling of being overwhelmed could paralyze us and lead us to not take any action or make any decision.
Now, how do you improve your predictions through objectivity?
So the biggest thing to do with this is look at the situation through the lens of objective reality versus delusion. A lot of times we tend to dramatize things and make it seem bigger than it is. So if we just focus on facts and use logic, that objective reality makes things a whole lot easier to deal with.
And our final one here is one that I think we all could relate to, is setting a deadline, because if you don't, it just seems to keep on going and going and going.
Yep, absolutely. So setting a deadline really does two things, right? It forces us to take action because we know that looming deadline is out there. And it also instills that sense of accountability. Like when you have a deadline, you have to get things done and make a decision, you'll make yourself take that action and hold yourself accountable. So that's a really important one.
Dr. Mike Smith joining us live from Las Vegas this morning, helping us to be better decision makers. Really do appreciate it, and have a wonderful weekend.
Hey, thank you so much, Daniel. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. 8:47 right now. Let's